Alright, we installed Python, but have you ever wondered how Python actually works under the hood? How does it take your code and turn it into something your computer understands? Buckle up because today we are going deep into the magic of Python interpretation, execution, and why Python loves spaces so much. Most programming languages fall into two categories, compiled and interpreted languages. So, where does Python fit in? For compiled languages, the entire program is converted into machine code before running. The compiled file like .exe runs faster, but it takes time to compile first. And for interpreted languages like Python, Python executes code line by line, translating it on the fly. No need to compile first, Python runs directly from the source code. Therefore, Python is an interpreted language, meaning it executes code line by line, making debugging easier and sometimes slower than compiled languages. When you run a Python script, what really happens? Let's break it down. Let's say you write a simple Python script like this. It is a simple print statement saying hello Python. Now, Python doesn't execute your code directly. It first converts it into an intermediate form called bytecodes. If you are wondering what is bytecode, bytecode is a low level platform independent version of your code. It is stored in .pyc files inside the PyCache folder. Once Python has bytecode, it hands it over to the Python virtual machine (PVM). This is where the actual execution happens. What is PVM's job? It reads the bytecode, executes instruction on the computer processor, translate it into machine code that your system understands. Unlike other languages that use curly braces for code blocks, Python relies on indentation, spaces, or tabs. Let's see two examples of indentation. First one, if true, then indented, print Python is awesome. This block of code is correctly indented, so this example is correct. Let's see another example. If true, not intended, print Python is awesome. You can see that after if statement there is a line print statement saying Python is awesome, and it is not indented correctly. Because it is not indented correctly, Python cannot recognize this code is inside the if statement block. Thus, Python will throw an indentation error because indentation is not optional in Python. Why does Python use indentation instead of curly braces? It makes the code cleaner and easier to read, enforces good coding practices automatically. Since Python is an interpreted language, it executes code line by line, right? Let's see what that means. In this example, you can see there are three print statements. The first one is saying line 1 is executed. Second is saying that line 2 is executed, and third print statement is saying that line 3 executed. So because of Python is an interpreted language, it will first go into the line 1, and if there is no error, then it will execute this line, and then it will move on to the second line. Then it will check if there is an error. If there is no error, then it will print the second line, and then it will move on to the third line. So the output executed in order will be like this: line 1 executed, then line 2 executed, then line 3 executed. But what if we introduce an error? uh, between the code, right? Okay, in this example, uh, there are three print statement. First one is a valid print statement and it says this line works, and second print statement is invalid. It will give error because divided by 0 is undefined. Then there is third print statement. This line will never execute, saying so the output will be, because Python is an interpreted language, it will go to the first line and it will have no error, and it will print this first line of code. Then it will move forward to the second line and it will check that there is an zero division error, because you cannot divide something by 0, it will give undefined error. Then it will never move forward. Python stops execution immediately when an error occurs. It doesn't move forward. So before this error line of code, every line of code will be executed, and after this error line code, nothing will be executed. Guys, one other thing I forgot to mention is Python syntaxes. Every language has grammar, right? Python is no different. It has syntax rule that we must follow. Python syntax is simple and readable code, looks like plain English. Space oriented, that we learned earlier from this lecture. Why Python uses indentation instead of curly braces like other languages. And Python is also case sensitive, which means you cannot define a variable with uppercase then call it with lowercase. It will give an case sensitive error. Alright guys, we are wrapping up for today. What we learned today? Today we learned Python is an interpreted language that runs by line by line. Python translates code into bytecode, then executes it on the PVM, that means Python virtual machine. Indentation is mandatory in Python. Python doesn't allow messy code. Execution stops at the first error, so debug it carefully. And also we learned about Python syntaxes. What's next? In the next lecture, we'll dive into variables and data types, the building blocks of Python programs. Got questions? Drop them in the comments. I actually read them. If this helped, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in lecture 4. Happy coding.